welcome. Great to have you here. I would like to start by talking a little bit about friction within teams and how to deal with smart employees who don't click with one another. How can you bring their brains together in the best way?
Okay, so when you've got a lot of smart people, you're either going to find collective brilliance or you are going to create that kind of friction. And I think what I've seen leaders do that creates the first is they create public, demonstrable appreciation for each person's intelligence. One of the ideas I talked about was this idea of natural or native genius. And when leaders understand that maybe not everyone in the world is a genius, but that everyone has brilliance and intelligence, it sets this tone for each person bringing unique genius. So instead of like a competition of who's the smartest, it's like, well, this person brings this analytical capability. This person is a critic. This person is a connector. This person's a bridge builder. This person unpacks problems. This person synthesizes. And teams where each person's unique genius is recognized not just by their leader, but by the whole team, you get collective brilliance rather than friction.
How can you mediate if you enter a team as a leader and you see that friction's already there? It's much harder to make a change sometimes, isn't it, when things have been going on for a while, rather than if you come in fresh and a whole team comes in fresh.
You know, this idea of talking about people's native genius, I've seen leaders do it when they come into teams and they're new or there's problems. It's one of the first 90-day exercises, and it just sets a very different tone of we're going to appreciate what each person brings. So I would say do this as a team, as a collective, from the beginning of one's tenure in an organization.
Okay.
Every group. So I'm from California, where we are prone to what I might call hippie thinking. And when I first heard from a reader of multipliers that they did this as a team, even for a Californian, I thought this was pretty hippie, pretty out there. And I decided to try it with some groups. Every group that I've ever done this with or have heard do it, they say it's the best thing they've ever done as a team.
Okay.
Give it a try.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people will be inspired to do that. You've said it's possible for a leader to be a multiplier in some areas, but a diminisher in others. Tell us a little bit more about how you can identify your blind spots here as a leader.
Yeah, I think part of the challenge of leadership is that we tend to get clouded by our good intentions. And it is human nature that we judge other people by their impact and their actions, and we judge ourselves by our best intentions. And I think to be a really, really good leader, what you have to do is close this gap between intention and impact. For some leaders, they might just be exposed to the concepts and go, oh, I can see my diminishing ways. Like sometimes just the word idea fountain or rescuer.
I love that. I could see myself being the person in the car that was just surrounded by ideas and it was too much.
And just a few minutes ago in our main session, I'm watching people go, oh, that's me. I do this. And that's part of it. But to really understand the impact you're having on others, you've got to hear from others. And for years, Maddie, I thought the best leaders put their energy into developing their leadership skills. And what I have found is that the leaders who build this culture of collective brilliance, this multiplier culture, aren't the leaders who focus their energy on even developing as a leader. What they do is they talk so openly about their accidental diminisher tendencies that people stop them from diminishing. So, if I talk openly, if we work together and I say, you know what, I'm a rescuer, I don't like to see people fail or struggle. If I'm stepping in the final hour because I'm nervous that you or someone isn't going to get it done, if everyone knows that I'm a rescuer and people actually tease me and even laugh about this, what it does is it gives people I guess Amy Edmondson would call it the psychological safety to say, hey, Liz, I don't need help. I've got this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get this done. And to push back. And what I think I've learned is that the people who are most motivated for you to be a good leader is not the CEO, it's not HR, it's not me. It's the people who work for you are the ones that are most motivated, and they will help you be a good leader.
Yeah, really interesting. I actually had a quote here from some of your work where you said, I think one of the most courageous things a leader can do is to admit also what they don't know. And you've seen this behavior change organizations. So on the one hand, it's saying, I know I've got these tendencies, but also admitting there's some things I don't know. That transparency.
Yeah, and it could be admitting things you can't see. Like, oh, this was my intent, but I can't really see the impact. And I think that opens you up to feedback, and also admitting that in a world of a lot of uncertainty, the leaders don't know, they don't have the answers. I had this one experience. This was when I was at Oracle, and I was working for Oracle's chief financial officer, and I was working very closely with the president, the chief financial officer, the chief technology officer, and we are working to recast the strategy for the business globally. We're about a $40 billion company at the time. And these three executives just were not, from my perspective, they weren't understanding that our strategy was not clear enough. It wasn't compelling enough. And I'm trying to help them see that the 50,000 employees around the world are confused. And I will never forget this moment, because the chief financial officer, who was my boss, he kind of just blurted out, he's like, Liz, you can stop beating us up. Like, we understand that there's a problem. And then he said, we don't know how to do this. And I thought, to do what? To communicate the strategy? And he goes, we've never run an organization this complex. These three executives are running a $40 billion global company. And he said, I've never set the strategy for a $40 billion company. And he turned to the president and he said, have you ever run a $40 billion company? And the president's like, no. And he turned to the chief technology officer. He said, how about you? And he's like, no. Like, I joined this company when it was still small. And he said, we've never done this before. And he said, but if you could help us figure out how to do this, that would be really helpful. And these were three really fine executives, and it was this incredibly powerful moment when they said, like, we don't know how to do this. I'm like, oh, well, I can help you, like, figure out how to craft a strategy and shape that. And I brought in, this Dr. C.K. Prahalad from the, University of Michigan, and I helped them learn how to do this. And it was a turning point for the whole company. And I think we expect our executives to have answers to questions they can't possibly have answers to. And I think the best, really most powerful leaders are ones who can say, I'm learning this too. And they piece together the intelligence of the group.
I'm really interested in how gender might play into this, because if you're a woman climbing the ranks, maybe there's even more of a feeling that I don't want to admit what I don't know, or I'm already competing, or I'm already trying to do more to sort of prove my worth here. Is that anything that's come out in your research?
Well, I think it is. I think women feel a lot more pressure to have answers. Now, I had done some research on this for a book I wrote called Rookie Smarts, and we know that we are at our best when we don't know and we're learning, but that doesn't mean we want to go into a situation and project like naivete. Like, I don't know, I don't have a clue. And that doesn't engender a lot of confidence when our executives go, gee, I don't know. What do you think? And I think the tone to establish, I call it intelligent learner. And my friend Adam Grant, he has a different name for it. And he mentioned this to me last night. And it's like a humble confidence is maybe the term that he uses. And I think the tone to take, which is, okay, here's what I know, here's what I can do, and you start from that and say, but this piece is new, so this is the part where I'm like learning and I want to know, but you don't want to project naivete, but you also don't want to project kind of a know-it-all, like an intelligent learner.
Yeah. You mentioned that you saw people in the audience seeing themselves either as leaders or employees. I think we've got a question from a perfectionist. They have said, how do you overcome perfectionism as a leader? Should you settle for good enough even when you see room for improvement?
I think this is about picking your battles. Like, we need perfectionists in our organization. We need people with really high standards. Not everything needs to be done to that level of perfectionism. And I think a leader is wise if they can separate what I call the freeways. Does that translate?
A motorway?
A motorway.
Yeah.
The motorways or autobahns from the playgrounds. And in almost every operation, whether you are in a manufacturing organization, a hospitality organization, if you are a surgeon, there are parts of the work that have to be done exactly right, and they need to be done perhaps perfectly, where there's a fiduciary responsibility. Those are the motorways, and that's where we need some of that perfectionism. But then in virtually every piece of work, there are the playgrounds where we can get things wrong, we can experiment, where it doesn't need to be done perfectly. And if you've got perfectionist tendencies, one of the most powerful things you can do as a leader is to separate the motorways from the playgrounds. It does two things. It lets your team know where they can experiment and recover the playgrounds. And it also lets them know where you might step in and be a little bit more heavy-handed. And it helps you separate this. I heard from, he was a partner in a law firm. And he said, oh, lawyers, we're like trained perfectionists. And he said, when I became partner of this law firm, he had recently read Multipliers. He said, I made the most important decision in my career as a partner. He said, I decided I would only correct people's work if it was legally inaccurate.
Wow.
He said, I can't let legally inaccurate advice go out to our clients. He said, that I correct, I perfect. Everything else, he said, I let it go. If I could have said it better, described it better, he said, I've just let it go. And he said, I think it's made all the difference for our firm. I think we all have to do some version of that. Like, what am I going to correct and perfect, and what am I going to let go?
Yeah, brilliant. All right, well, we are slowly running out of time, or quickly running out of time, I should say, but it's been great to have you here on the HS Visio live stage. Thank you very much for joining us, Liz Wiseman.
Thank you.